team. Of course, I'm Tony Busby from the Busby Law Firm, and this is Crystal Del Toro, who is also from our firm, and a few other lawyers here. And you'll meet one of our clients in a few minutes. Every 68 seconds, someone in the United States is sexually assaulted. On average, there are approximately 463,000 victims of sexual violence each year in the United States. And only a small fraction of that violence is actually reported. And of that violence, about 10% of those individuals who are victimized are male. Now, many of those who assault others get away with it for a lot of reasons, one of which is because the victims are not brave enough to report. And many of these people that assault others get away with it because they think that the law doesn't apply to them, that they're above the law. But I'm here to tell you that no one is untouchable. It may take time, but the truth ultimately shines through. Justice sometimes limps along, but eventually it finally arrives. Now, I represent victims. I proudly represent victims. Victims of negligence, victims of malice, victims of assault, and victims of sexual assault. And when you've been the victim of a sexual assault, when you've been victimized in this way, it's extremely difficult to come forward. You face ridicule, you face embarrassment, you're ashamed, and yet you're ashamed. You face ridicule, and it's even more difficult when the alleged victimizer is known or connected to someone famous or connected to someone perceived wealthy or connected to someone perceived powerful or just connected. Victims in our country are often attacked. We're seeing that in this case already. They are shamed, they're often vilified, they're called people that bring frivolous cases, people that are filing cases because of what they're calling horseplay. They're often ignored. The mere fact that you're here, I guess, is the good news. This is not being ignored. And not these men. Not these men. Because these men will not be ignored. Not anymore. These men are brave, they're speaking out, and they're seeking justice. Now, as you know, we filed 3 cases against Ramón Ayala, his son, and the band, and the company that owns the band. We joined in those lawsuits the companies that we believe enable this conduct that you're going to hear about. And yesterday, a 4th man came forward, and we'll be filing yet the 4th case, either this afternoon or tomorrow. These cases allege sexual assault, intimidation, harassment, and even after filing the cases, and even after speaking out, this harassment and this intimidation continues. I know for a fact that many members of the press were contacted and were asked not to cover this press conference. I know that as soon as I announced this press conference and announced that some of these brave men were going to come forward, I know just as soon as I did that, the defendants in this case announced their own press conference and called these cases frivolous. These are the same people that came all the way to Houston, Texas to meet with me. And I showed them the very things that I'm going to show you today. And I asked them, get Junior away from these band members. He is outrageous and out of control. I asked them. That's the only thing I've ever asked of these people, is to get that person away from the rest of these men. And they looked at the same videos that you're going to look at. They looked at the same pictures that you're going to see. And they hung their heads in shame, just like I anticipate you will. It will be hard to look at. And then they did nothing other than call these brave men names and file motion paperwork with the court trying to force these men to reveal their names, mistakenly thinking, that they would just slink away and run away because they didn't have the courage or the guts to reveal their names. What a miscalculation that was on their part. They may have not known who they were dealing with. Now they're going to know. These men are not going to be bullied into silence. They're not going to be intimidated and made to go away. As I said, these cases allege sexual assault, intimidation, harassment, and just downright the most outrageous and egregious conduct that I think I've ever seen. And I've handled thousands of cases like this all over the country, from New York to Los Angeles, from Maine to New Mexico, all over this country. I've never seen the kind of conduct that we're going to talk about today. The effort to try to force these men to go away by asking the court to publicly make them reveal themselves, you know what we did instead? We just amended our filings with the court and we revealed their names. And here's the thing. We had already disclosed who these men were to Ramón Ayala's legal team. We'd already disclosed them. What they wanted was us to disclose it in the court files, thinking that that would scare these men so away. Obviously, that did not work. These men will not go away and hide. These men will not be bullied. They will not quietly just slink away. We have never made a money demand. The only demand we've ever made is for Ayala Jr. to get away from the rest of these band members. These band members, they travel the country. There's a lot of camaraderie. There's a brotherhood there. They feel fondly with one another. The ones that are still there, that are being subjected to this conduct, don't like it. And these men feel some sense of loyalty to them, to their bandmates. And that's why we made that request. That's why we made that demand. And what we got instead was, even after the hanging their heads in shame, even after acknowledging that this conduct was outrageous and egregious, what we got instead was, they started calling these men names. They tried to vilify these men. They tried to humiliate these men. They tried to embarrass them. Let's talk about what horseplay is and what horseplay is not. Let's talk about what is frivolous and what is serious. Here are some of the allegations. Allegations that we will not only have testimony about, but also video and photographic proof. When your boss runs around naked, calling you names to humiliate you, laughing at you, that's not horseplay. That's unacceptable, egregious behavior. When your boss, the man who pays you at the end of the tour, who signs your checks or pays you in cash, waits until you're asleep and puts his penis in your face, that is not horseplay. That is not frivolous. That is outrageous and egregious. When he touches you on your buttocks repeatedly, when he tries to pull down your pants, when he goes to the bathroom and defecates and doesn't wipe, and then comes back and pulls his butt cheeks out and sits on top of you and rubs feces all over you, that is not horseplay. That is not frivolity. That's outrageous conduct. When your boss takes feces, wipes feces, comes out of the bathroom and wipes in front of you, and then takes the tissue and throws it on another bandmate into his face, that is not horseplay. That is not frivolous. That's outrageous and egregious and unacceptable conduct by any person. These men are not dogs. These men are human beings. These men deserve to be treated with dignity. Unfortunately, they got something quite different than that. When your boss, who is using cocaine daily, blows his his nose and loads of blood comes out of his nose because of his repeated cocaine use, and he takes the blood and shoves it in your face or throws it on you, that is not horseplay. That is not frivolity. That is not locker room conduct. That is egregious. It's outrageous. It's unacceptable. For those people who intend to have their press conference within a few hours of now, for them to call that kind of conduct that I have already shared with them at their request in Houston, Texas, for them to call that conduct frivolous, when I've shown them the photographic evidence and the video evidence, they are lying to you. Then you begin to ask yourself, is it just Junior? Or maybe it's the entire team that does not care about basic human dignity and respect. When your boss sticks his finger by force up a band member's anus, so much holds him down and sticks his finger up his anus, causing his anus to bleed, and for him to go to Reynosa to get medical treatment, that, my friends, is not frivolity. That, my friends, is not horseplay. That is aggravated sexual assault. And anyone who says otherwise has an agenda. That violates basic human dignity. That is not how decent human beings conduct themselves. It's disgusting, it's outrageous, but it's certainly not frivolous. Biting people, just biting someone, ridiculous, happened often. Grabbing unsuspecting victims' penises, causing injury, it's not horseplay. Holding an individual down and sucking on his toes, holding him down and sucking on his toes and pretending it's a penis, it's ridiculous. It's outrageous. No one is suggesting that an 80-year-old man did any of those things. And I completely understand that Ayala Sr. is trying to distance himself from this, but here's the problem. It was reported to him multiple times. These band members travel together in a very tight-knit group. There are no secrets in the band. And he chose to turn a blind eye because it was his son. He chose to ignore it because it was his son. He chose to treat it as an isolated incident, even though it was happening daily. And even after his own legal team traveled to Houston and was shown the evidence, rather than taking responsibility, rather than taking accountability, what he chose to do instead was call these men names, people that supported him, people that admired him, people that revered him, people that wanted to play in his band because of who he was, of who they thought he was. You throw cocaine on other individuals. That's not frivolity. You wipe your anus and throw the tissue on other people. That's not frivolity. When you act routinely in a bizarre, aggressive, violent, and threatening manner, that is not frivolity. When one of the band members has had enough, can't take it anymore, knows that this is known behavior, knows that everybody sees what's happening, knows, what's going on, but one of the band members has the courage to step forward and go directly to the old man, to Ayala Sr., and say, we can't take this anymore. And he refuses to act, refuses to do anything. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Can you imagine the courage it takes for these men who are here amongst us, who were subjected to this conduct, to be willing to stand at this podium and speak? Knowing full well that there is a certain percentage of people that are here in this county and in our state, no matter what comes out of this man's mouth, they're going to criticize, they're going to vilify, they're going to try to embarrass and shame this man, but yet he still stands here, knowing that that's what's happening and that's what will happen. Who better to tell his story than himself? Please step forward. Introduce yourself and tell us your story. You have your phone? Yes, sir.
Buenas tardes, amigos. ¿Qué tal? Me llamo Luis González y fui bajista de Ramón Ayala y sus Bravos del Norte durante la gira Historia de un Final del 2025 a inicios del 2026. Don Ramón Ayala, desde niño siempre quise ser el mejor músico para andar un día con los mejores y gracias a Dios lo logré. Usted, desde que recuerdo, siempre fue mi más grande ídolo musical. Desde que conocí su música y acordeón, mi único sueño fue algún día formar parte de Ramón Ayala y sus Bravos del Norte. Después de años de sacrificio, disciplina y lucha, a mis 42 años de edad, logré cumplirlo. Entré a su grupo con amor, respeto y orgullo de ser un bravo y representar a mi familia y a mis hijos. Pero abajo de ese gran escenario, la realidad era otra. Desde que entré a su grupo viví maltratos, humillaciones, amenazas y abuso de parte de su hijo Ramón Ayala Jr. Todos lo miraban y nadie hacía nada por miedo a perder su trabajo. Sus conductas en ese autobús eran agresivas, enfermizas y fuera de control. Con el tiempo la situación llegó a empeorar a un lugar más oscuro. A mis 42 años y siendo padre de 3 hijos, sufrí acoso sexual por parte de este señor. Sus insinuaciones, propuestas indecorosas y actos enfermizos me hicieron entender que algo no estaba bien. Después de sufrir repetidas agresiones sexuales donde llegó a lastimarme físicamente, intenté hablar con don Ramón Ayala, pero nunca me lo permitieron. Ramón Ayala Jr. llegó a decirme, a ti te puedo violar y no vas a hacer absolutamente nada, porque no vas a querer que alguien más tome tu lugar al lado de tu gran ídolo, Ramón Ayala. Don Ramón, yo no me merecía esto. Le aseguro que su hijo no es la víctima aquí. Como se lo dije en una ocasión, su hijo es culpable de todo lo que se le acusa. Ramón Ayala Jr. en 3 ocasiones me amenazó que si a su papá le pasaba algo por nuestra culpa, nos iba a destazar. Lo más triste de todo esto es que ustedes sabían perfectamente cómo era él y aún así le dieron autoridad sobre nosotros, tuvieron muchas oportunidades para detenerlo y pudieron haberlo despedido desde hace mucho tiempo. Ramón Ayala me dañó físicamente, emocionalmente y psicológicamente. Me dejó ansiedad, traumas y heridas que sigo cargando hasta hoy. Afectó mi hogar y a las personas a quien más quiero, igual mi tranquilidad. Ramón Ayala Jr. vino a truncar mi carrera por celo o envidia o sus preferencias sexuales. Lo que haya sido nunca lo voy a entender. Me arrebató mi lugar dentro de los Bravos del Norte, un sueño por cual luché toda la vida. Y solo quería cerrar esta gira junto a mi ídolo. Pero una cosa sí les puedo decir, logré mi sueño, lo viví y eso nadie me lo puede quitar. Hoy vengo a decir mi verdad para crear conciencia y para que nadie más tenga que pasar por algo así. El acoso sexual no debería pasarle a nadie, sin importar la edad ni el género. Gracias.
I'm going to read a statement. Read a second statement from one of the individuals. This was from John Doe number 1, whose name has now been revealed voluntarily in the court files. Here's what he wrote in Spanish, and I'm going to read in English. I work for Ramón Ayala. I love my job. I love being part of a band that made music that people love. I was proud of the part I played, even if it was a small part. I can no longer be a part of the band anymore, and I'm devastated. What happened to me changed my life in a way that words can hardly explain. The pain, fear, and emotional harm caused by the conduct in the lawsuit I filed have affected my sense of safety, trust, and peace every single day since then. No one should have to endure having their body, their voice, or their dignity taken away from them. Fame does not give anyone the right to humiliate another person the way that I was humiliated. Ever since filing this lawsuit, the attempts to humiliate me have not stopped. I filed this lawsuit seeking justice. I wanted to put a stop forever to this type of conduct. People should be treated with dignity and respect. People should not be treated like dogs. That's how I was treated. I was treated like a dog. I wrote this statement and had it read today not only because of what was done to me, but because I refuse to let this define my worth or silence my truth. The impact of this trauma is real, lasting, and something I carry with me every day, and I will not be silenced. I asked Mr. Ramón Ayala Sr. to acknowledge the seriousness of these actions and the harm that has been caused. What Ramón Jr. did to me is far more serious than any musical legacy. I am trying to heal, rebuild my life, and move forward with strength and dignity. I trust that the authorities will clarify the facts with justice and truth. God sees everything, and He is by my side. Those are the bunks where the band members. Sometimes the allegation is that Ayala Jr. would walk around the trailer naked, just out of boredom, sticking his penis in people's faces, catching people who were asleep, putting his penis into their face, into their lips, putting his buttocks into their face. He tried to get members of the band to role play with him in some weird scheme that he came up in his mind. I can't see that. On one occasion, he stuck a tequila cork into his anus. Then he buried his rear end and pushed it out in front of all the band, and then tried to put his buttocks onto everybody that was watching. He actually put this cork into his anus inside of a restaurant. This is his normal operation where he ran around the bus, nude, high on drugs, and trying to catch anyone unsuspecting. He would just, without any warning whatsoever, just bite somebody. The individual that was bitten here has a big bite mark on their shoulder. No warning, no reason, just bite you. like an unsuspecting dog. He would at times try to put his penis on the bus driver as they're driving down the road. He's just running back and forth, out of control. I want you to pay particular attention to the individual that we blocked out his face lying there on the couch. Do you see that person? He's wearing a blue shirt. You see that person? The person standing up there is Ramón Ayala, Jr. So many times that the guys didn't even fight back anymore. If that man would fought back, he would have held him down and done the exact same thing. He stuck his finger right in front of everybody, right over this man's anus, and then pulled it out, smelled it, and put it in his mouth. You all saw what he was doing there?
¿Qué es eso? Guácala, güey. No mames.
See the tissue paper there? I want you to listen closely to this.
Yeah, I need you to go in here and go suck your fucking throat, bitch. I want to suck your throat. I want to lick them clean, bitch. I want all that shit between your fucking toe fingers. All that forehead, all that forehead going underneath your feet, I want to fucking bite it off you. Okay, do it.
You know, when you're subjected to that kind of conduct, day after day after day, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with that? When you see your boss, who you know is is allegedly using drugs. Allegedly using drugs frequently. You know how your boss becomes after he allegedly uses drugs day after day. And you can tell just from the look in his eyes and how he carries himself, how he's going to be that day, and you start to try to steer clear of him. But there ain't a lot of places to go on a tour bus. And so when he abuses someone else, allegedly, you keep your distance. Maybe you might video it, but you stay the hell away from him. And then it's your turn. And everybody stays the hell away from you. And that's what these men were subjected to, day after day after day after day. And it wasn't a secret. It wasn't some secret. It was out in the open. And the mere fact they were able to capture some of this on video, you can only imagine how frequent it was. It was so blatant. We brought this case seeking justice. We have the receipts and we have the proof. I'm calling on the Hidalgo County DA to act. Our clients will speak with you. If you want to talk to our clients, there's 4 of them now. There will be more. They will speak with you. They will help you any way they can. We will provide you the evidence, not only the evidence that we've shown here, but all the other evidence that we have collected. And there's about 5 times more than what you've seen. We're asking for action. We're asking for an investigation. More importantly, if you are a witness to this behavior, if you've witnessed this behavior, we ask that you come forward and contact our office. And finally, if you've been victimized, either in this particular situation or any other situation, we ask that you come forward. You do not have to suffer in silence. You do not have to suffer in shame. This type of conduct that we've discussed here today is not appropriate. It's outrageous. It's not how decent people act. But it will continue to occur until you speak up. There are a lot of people that will support you. You are not alone. Thank you for your attention and your time, and we won't be taking questions. Thank you. Don't screw it.